Hello friends, welcome to the Jazz Ranch. This is part 2 on the major scales. In other words, learning them in your left hand and a simple trick to find the fingering. So years ago I met the great pianist Dave Brubeck. It was through a friend who knew the bass player, and we got to go into the dressing room and meet them. Both Dave Brubeck and Paul Desmond were there. And Paul was known for having sort of a humorous take on things, and he told me that about practicing. He said, well, once I practiced for a few weeks, I ended up playing too fast. Another thing he told me, and I wasn't so good in gym class, and he said, well, I was so bad in gym class, I used to sign up for first period, and I'd go into the wrestling room, and I could go in the corner and sleep. So here we go now with learning your major scales in the left hand. Starting out, this is part 2 of mastering the major scales, and a simple trick, and that trick is the pattern of 3 and 4s. In other words, laying down the 3 fingers and then the 4 fingers over the scale so you can figure out the fingering, right? So there's the 3 fingers and so on. Now I showed you in the last video, you should watch that one first if you haven't seen it, part 1, how to play in 3 octaves in triplets like this. So the next step would be to play the same thing in 4 octaves, but now it's going to be 4 notes. In other words, quartal. So it's going to be 1 and 2 and like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. See how it comes out even? You might have missed the top part of that in the picture, but that's the way you want to practice. There's 2 ways: accenting in triplets, and in the 4 notes, or the quartal, you're going to accent every 4 notes, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Here's a better screen view so you can see the 4 octaves. There they are. So like, you can do 1 and 2 and, or you can do 1 E and a, like that. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 and 2. It comes out even. And you don't really want to count, but you just want to feel the 4. And what that does is that you're accenting different fingers, you see. Now we're accenting the second finger. First finger. It keeps accenting different fingers, which creates strength and articulation in different fingers. Now you can start this out very slowly. That's more difficult than playing everything even, but after you practice this way for a while, you'll begin to see how your technique and your finger articulation and the ability to accent notes and everything else that has to do with piano and keyboard technique is going to improve using this as a warm-up exercise. So I want to talk about playing the major scale, C major scale to start, in the left hand. And before that, I want to talk about a couple of concepts. First of all, if you look at the 2 hands, they're actually opposite of each other, right? It's like turned around, like it's like that. So like if you turn around your hand, I'm sorry for the bent finger, but if you turn the hand around and look in the mirror, you'll see that this hand matches that one in terms of its outline. So they're opposite. Now, the fascinating thing about that is the left hand plays the opposite thing that the right hand does. In other words, playing the same notes but with the opposite fingering. Here's another fascinating thing about music and the scale. If we take a C major scale, we play a third, a thumb on the third, thumb on the tonic, and then we move in opposite directions. that, well, they're mirror images of each other. In other words, it's a half step, then a whole, then a whole, then a whole, then back up a whole, whole, half. See, so it doesn't matter what key you do it in. It doesn't matter. You can do it in any key, and it's always going to be that symmetrical aspect of a mirror image. Now, looking at the left hand and the scales, they're just the opposite of the right. So the right was a pattern of 3 and then a pattern of 4, right? A pattern of 3, then crossing under, pattern of 4. So the left hand is pattern of 4. I'm going to start here. There's your pattern of 4, crossing over, pattern of 3, crossing over, pattern of 4, crossing over, pattern of 3, reversing it, crossing under, pattern of 3, pattern of 4, crossing under, pattern of 3, crossing under, pattern of 4. Exactly opposite of the right hand, which are mirror images of each other. Opposite of each other. So the opposite happens. It's perfect. This is music. This is the symmetry. It's an amazing thing. Now I have all these scales written out for you and the fingering. But remember that in the right hand it was always 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then through the sharp keys. Next key would be G sharp, 1 sharp, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, same thing happens in the left hand. The opposite though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. See, so the 1, there's the 4, there's the 3. So we go to G, here we have the 4, and then we have the 3. So it's this. You see? Crossing over. So our thumb's going to hit on the G there again, and then be ready to go 3, 4, 4, then 3, all crossing over with the 3. You see, so that pattern is there. 4, 3, right? 4, 3. You have to be able to lay the pattern down on the keyboard to understand this, and you want to understand it in depth to really get it. Otherwise, you're just doing something that you're reading off a page, and your hands are learning it, and you're not really understanding it. You have to understand this pattern of 4 and 3, 4, 3, and reversing it, crossing. You see, so the same thing happens throughout all the sharp keys. So this works perfectly, and the left hand being a mirror image of the right hand, but opposite of it. I wouldn't be showing you this, but it's fascinating how perfectly it works. You see, if I now go to D, it's going to go, there's the 4 notes there, starting out, and there's the 3 notes here. And then it crosses over, does the 4 notes, and then crosses over, does the 3. Then it just does the reverse, so it's going to go down to the 4, then cross over, and then cross over the 3, and then you have the 4 there, you see. And this is going to work for D, A, E, B. We get the G flat, it's going to change. Now, like in music and everything else, you can't predict things to be perfect. So the left hand in the key of G flat now is going to go 4 and 3. And that's the same thing that happened in the right hand. We did the 4 and then we did the 3, right? So you're going to have the 4 here, but displaced starting with the 4th finger. There's going to be 4 notes and then 3 notes. You see, so you got the 4 pattern. You have to be able to see that pattern. It has to work. There and then there. See, if you tried to do 3 and then 4, you'd end up here and you'd have to end up crossing like that and you'd be on the wrong finger. You see, so this system works perfectly if you just realize that it's always going to alternate between 4 and 3 or 3 and 4. It's never going to be another, there's not going to be a group of 3s or a group of 4s. It's always going to be that perfectly. Now D flat changes in the left hand. We're going to start out with a pattern of 3 and then a pattern of 4. So it's going to be like, you know, you have to make, this has to make sense. So there's the pattern of 3, here's the pattern of 4. That's D flat. Now when we go, the next one will be A flat, pattern of 3, pattern of 4. Please just start down here. Pattern of 3, pattern of 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm reversing it. E flat's going to be a pattern of 3 and 4. Pattern of 3, pattern of 4. Let's get that. If you want to improve your time with this, you can use the metronome, like maybe. So wrapping up, you want to be able to accomplish after this video with playing the major scales in 3 octaves in triplets, so in separate hands. So like you want to be able to like that for the right hand, maybe for the left we'll start down here. That's not perfect, but you see, you start out very slowly, like. And then eventually on the next video, we're going to do 2 hands. So we're going to go, that much I'll give you. And then I need to practice it myself. But that's a good start, and this is going to build your technique, give you more keyboard knowledge and flexibility in your fingers, and do great things for your playing. Wrapping up from the Jazz Ranch, I hope you enjoyed this on the left hand playing the major scales. Now, I'm going to continue with this series from part 3, show you how to play both hands together. And until next time, I'll say in the words of my great friend Hermie Dressel, God rest his merry soul, swing loose, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.